Hey guys, so today we're going to go through derivatives. I'll teach you all the rules you need to know, the main ones: power rule, product rule, quotient rule, and chain rule, as fast as I can. But the first thing you need to understand is what even is a derivative. A derivative is technically the rate of change, but what does that mean? So at this point, you guys should know y equals mx plus b, right? Or a line, any point slope form, y-intercept form, whatever. The derivative, if you take the derivative of something, it's going to give you m, or the slope. For example, if I have y equals 3x plus 5, the derivative of that is 3. Why? Because that's how fast the line is changing. For every 1 you go to the right, you're going to go up 3. So that's all a derivative is. That's all you have to think about it. A derivative is the slope. If we have a line, right? So let me just draw an ugly axis right now. So if we have a line, it's easy, right? Because the slope is the same throughout every single point in the line. Okay? But let's say we have something a little bit more complicated, like a parabola. This is a little bit more complicated because the slope here at that blue point is not the same as the slope here, right? The slope here at the bottom, right, looks like it's 0. The slope here is not 0, it's negative something. So that's when you're going to need to use those rules I was talking about. So, first one, power rule. This one is really easy. So let's say they ask you take the derivative of 3x squared. Okay, how do I do that? First step, I'll do this in red. You bring this exponent down and multiply it by 2, right? So bring this exponent down and multiply it by the coefficient and subtract 1 from the exponent. So that'll give me 6x. Okay, so I'll write it in a more general form. So derivative d by dx of 3x squared, or sorry, I'll just do nx, I don't know, cubed, let's say. So this would be 3nx 3 minus 1, which is 3nx squared. So that's all you have to do. You bring this exponent down, subtract 1, and then you get your answer. So you guys can try a couple of practice problems. So I'm just going to 4x cubed, 3x, and then, I don't know, 6x to the 5th. Okay. Okay, so let's try this one. 4x cubed. First step, bring this 3 over here. So 3 times 4x to the 3 minus 1. So that's 12x squared. Pretty easy. You don't need to write all these steps down, but I'm just showing you 3x. Okay. So this is a 1, right? This is just a 1. We don't need to write that though. So, but I'll just write it for now. So bring this, so 1 times 3 times x to the 1 minus 1. So that's 1 times 3 is 3, x to the 0. X to the 0 is just 1, right? So that's just 3 times 1, which is 3. Okay? Last one. 6x to the 5th. Again, bring this down, multiply it. So 5 times 6x to the 5 minus 1. That is 30x to the 4th. Again, you don't need to do all these steps. In fact, it's going to waste a lot of time later on when you're more advanced. But doing this now is going to help you kind of get the hang of it, and it's good. It's good practice anyway. But yeah. But eventually this will become automatic. You'll look at this and think, oh, 30x to the 4th is the derivative of this. Well, all these numbers mean is that at any point on that curve or line, that's the slope. So for example, at 4x cubed, let's say at x equals 1, then the slope is going to be, all you have to do is plug it into here. 12 times 1 squared is just 12. So the slope at x equals 1 is 12. Okay, good. Next rule is the product rule. Oh, a little yellow stray mark. It's okay. Product rule. Let's say I want to take the derivative. Oh, the derivative of, and these are all I'm taking the derivative. I didn't write it down, but I should have said, that's my bad. I should have said derivative. Find the derivative of. Okay, so d by dx. So let's do derivative of 3x minus 1 times x plus 4. And we want to find the derivative of that. Okay. While you could multiply this out, what if it was like 3x minus 1 squared? That'd be a lot of multiplying, and you don't need to do that. So I'm just going to show you a simple example first, but I'll show you the formula, right? So first thing you want to do is, the formula is f prime of x times g of x plus f of x times g prime of x. And that gives you the derivative. So we just pick one of these to be f of x and one of them to be g of x. Make it in orange so we can see this clearer. So I'll say this first one, f of x, 3x minus 1 is f of x. And then this pink one is g of x plus 4. Okay, now, first step, f prime of x. That's my formula, right? So f prime of x. This prime means the derivative of. So to make this a little bit easier, right? So I'm just going to write these all down nicely so I don't get confused. So f prime of x is just the derivative of 3x minus 1, which is 3, using our power rule. And then g of x is x plus 4. Oh, this one's a little bit easier, right? So g prime of x is 1. Okay, now all I have to do is plug it back into my equation. So f prime of x is 3, and then g of x is x plus 4. Sorry, I know this is really colorful. It shouldn't be, but just to kind of match everything up properly. So f of x is 3x minus 1. And then lastly, g prime of x is 1. I don't need to write it, but I'll just write it. And then we'll get our answer to be 3x plus 12 plus 3x minus 1, which equals, I'll write it here, equals 6x plus 11. So that's the derivative. So this is my answer right here. That's the power rule. Okay? Yeah. Again, I mean, you could definitely multiply these out. Might make it a little bit easier in this case, but in other harder cases, then it's definitely easier to go product rule. And it really is a very helpful rule. And so, speaking of product rule, let's move on to quotient rule. Quotient rule is a little bit of a pain. So let's just say d by dx derivative of x cubed over 3x minus 1. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I just made that up. Okay. Okay, how do we do this? I mean, you could like separate them, but I don't even think that works for this one. So formula here is f prime of x times g of x minus g prime of x times f of x all over g of x squared. Okay, so this is our formula. Again, we pick one of these two. So I'll just say x cubed is my f of x. And then 3x minus 1 is my g of x. And now let's write down our f's and our f prime. So x cubed, what's our f of x? And then f prime of x is what? The derivative of 3x, of x cubed, which is 3x squared. Sorry, I can't speak today. And then g of x equals 3x minus 1. This one's g prime of x equals 3. Now all we have to do is plug it in. So that's, that's the thing about calculus. It's like, you're just learning new ways to use the stuff you already know. Which, I mean, I guess that's all math. But like now it's just plugging it in, multiplying it, subtracting, and dividing. So f prime of x, I'll use orange again. Sorry, I don't. Okay, 3x squared. And then g of x is 3x minus 1 minus g prime of x is 3. And then f of x is x cubed. And then this is actually a common mistake. Remember, it's g of x squared, not g prime of x squared. It's g of x squared. And g of x is 3x minus 1. So 3x minus 1 squared. Okay? You can leave it like this. Like on the AP exam, you can leave it like this, especially in free response questions. But if you get to like multiple choice, they'll want you to simplify it. So let's simplify it really quickly. So multiply this out. 9x cubed minus 3x squared minus 3x cubed over 3x minus 1 squared equals 6x cubed minus 3x squared over 3x minus 1. Oh, I actually, okay, it actually simplifies pretty nicely. Okay, that was just lucky. Okay, it actually simplifies pretty nicely, it was just lucky. So I'm going to take out a 3x squared. I'm going to get a 2x minus 1, 3x minus 1. Oh my god, this is squared. I forgot my squared and all them. Minus 1 squared. Okay, and that's my answer. Again, I would just leave it like this, like in a free Ew, that's, okay. That green does not look good. Okay, I'll, gray. Gray can't look bad. Okay. Okay, so I'd leave it like this in a free response because you're less likely to make a mistake while you're simplifying. But it maybe in a multiple choice, it might give you this right here as one of the answer choices. Okay. And here's our last one. Chain rule. Okay, this one, I think if you remember anything out of this video, remember power rule and remember chain rule. So this time, let's say 3x squared equals. Again, you know what? I'm going to make this a little bit harder. 3x plus 1 to the 4th. Okay, there we go. Now, no one in their right mind would want to like expand all this. So what's the formula for chain rule? Well, we know what the derivative of x to the 4th is. So let's just imagine that this right here is an x, okay? So our formula is going to be f prime of g of x times g prime of x. Okay? So, all this means. For chain rule, I recommend, I still do this. I don't know, maybe it's a little bit slow. A lot of people don't do this, but I think it's helpful. So, we're going to use our base, right? So, f of x. Just imagine this is an x right there. It's just x to the 4th. F prime of x equals 4x cubed. I'm just going to erase that so we don't get confused. 4x cubed. Okay? Now g of x equals, g of x is just this thing in here, okay? So 3x squared plus 1, g prime of x equals 6x using power rule. Okay, if this is a little confusing, I understand. So I'm going to break it down a little bit more. So think about this formula as the same thing as this. So d by d of x, of f of g of x. And that equals That's what this equals, okay? So that's the same thing, right? I just wrote it in a different way, and I just plugged in f of x, g of x, right? So we can relate this stuff over here, these four things that I labeled, and we can put them into here, and we'll get that. So this is just an aside. I just wanted to show you guys how that worked. Okay. Now again, we plug in. So f prime of x is 4x cubed. Okay, so I'm just gonna use blue for this one. 4x cubed. So 4, but then what goes into x? G of x. So g of x is 3x squared plus 1 cubed, right? Times g prime of x is 6x, and that's our answer. It's very simple, like maybe 2 steps, 1 step even if you don't count this stuff. But this is like, this is an important step for me. Like I still use this. It's like important. So you don't mix up your f primes and your g primes. But it's not required. But I still think like that's the one thing like I tell everybody. At least try to write this down, especially in the beginning. If you don't need to later on, then you don't need to. But when you go down into like integration and stuff like that, it's gonna be helpful. I promise. But yeah, that's the answer. Uh, this one they're probably not gonna make you expand all the way out. You don't have time for that on the AP exam. But yeah, those are the main derivative rules that you'll need. Um, other than that, like I mean, the only other one is the constant rule, but I feel like this one is pretty obvious at this point. Like constant rule, if they say d of dx of like I don't know 3, no 5, we'll manifest that 5 for the AP exam for 5. Okay, well there's no x, so how the hell am I gonna do the power rule? Okay, well let's think about this. Remember in the very beginning, I said the derivative is the slope. Okay, so d of dx of 5. Okay, I don't need to. I'll just whatever. So 5 is like right there. Okay, what's the slope of this line? It's a big 0. That's what the answer is, 0. Right? The slope is 0. Another way you can think about it is I can write 5 as 5x to the 0, right? Because x to the 0 is just 1. So 5x to the 0, I'd use my power rule. So 0 times 5 times x to the 0 minus 1. That's 0 times x to the negative 1. But 0 times anything is just 0. And boom. But yeah, that's all the stuff you need to know. For power rule, I just want to make this a little bit clearer to make it, if you like have these as notes or something, I'd want you guys to write it as like this: x to the n, right? So then this would be nx n minus 1. Like I put a number in there. It's the same. It was right, but this is like the formula. You need to memorize. But these three are all formulas you should memorize: product rule, f prime of x g of x plus f of x g of x; quotient rule; chain rule. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.